There comes a point where silence feels louder than noise, where you stop reacting, where you start seeing. That moment is when your shadow begins to lose its grip. Many walk through life unaware that they are ruled by the parts they've buried. A flash of anger here, a sudden insecurity there. It's not random, it's your shadow speaking, unseen, unchecked, until it becomes your identity. But something changes when you start facing it, not fighting it, facing it. You begin to move through the world with a different rhythm. No longer chasing approval, no longer drowning in doubt. Decisions become cleaner, emotions don't hijack you. You still feel them, but they no longer control the wheel. This shift isn't mystical, it's practical, it's trained, and it's subtle. That's why most people miss the signs when it begins to happen. In this video, I will walk you through those signs. Some will surprise you. Some will feel like they've been waiting inside you all along. From emotional neutrality to disciplined stillness, from silent confidence to the return of focused energy, these are the markers that you are no longer ruled by what you've repressed. Stay until the end, because the final sign is one that even the most devoted practitioners overlook, and yet it is the clearest proof of inner transformation. This part is not about becoming someone else, it's about remembering what you are beneath the noise. Welcome to Shaolin Soulfire. I am Heng. Subscribe now and let's walk this path together. There was a time I believed mastery meant suppression. That to be strong, you had to bury your emotions deep where no one could see. But suppression is not strength, it's silence with tension beneath. True mastery is when the emotion arises and you let it. You let the anger burn, you let the fear shake through your chest, you let sadness ripple through your bones. But you don't flinch, you don't escape, and most importantly, you don't act from it. This is not coldness, this is presence. When a student comes to me and says, I feel overwhelmed, I ask them, who is the one that sees the overwhelm? That question usually stops them. Because they've forgotten they are not the emotion, they are the witness of it. At the Shaolin Temple, we train the body, yes, but always to still the mind. We don't run from storms inside. We train to stand in the middle of them, unmoved. This doesn't happen overnight. It's a daily discipline, like sitting in silence when your chest wants to scream, like breathing when your mind races with judgment, like walking forward when fear tells you to freeze. Emotions will always come, that's the nature of being human, but they don't own you unless you grip them. Let them come, let them pass, let them teach you where your edges still are. The one who watches without reacting, that's who you truly are. And when that part of you leads, the shadow loses its voice. Most people live on repeat. They wake up, feel the same thoughts, react to the same people, repeat the same choices, then wonder why nothing changes. But there comes a moment, often quiet, where something shifts. You start to see it happen before it happens. The anger rises, and you notice the tension in your jaw before the words leave your mouth. The self-doubt appears, and you catch the familiar story forming in your mind before it takes over. The urge to escape, to avoid, to distract, it comes, but this time you see it. That is the first step in breaking the cycle. In the Shaolin tradition, mastery begins with awareness, not action. You don't fight the habit, you observe it, deeply, patiently, like watching clouds drift across the sky without rushing to shape them. Discipline here isn't force, it's refinement. You become a quiet observer of your own machinery. And in that noticing, you reclaim your choice. You don't have to yell just because irritation rises. You don't have to shut down just because fear shows up. You don't have to believe the thought just because it's loud. The old patterns lose power when you stop feeding them. And the more you catch them in the moment, the more space you create between impulse and response. That space is where freedom begins. The Shaolin path doesn't promise a life without triggers. It teaches you how to stop being ruled by them, to walk through life alert, awake, and in command, not through domination, but through steady clarity. This is how cycles end, not with drama, but with awareness, quiet, precise, relentless. There's a kind of effort that exhausts you. It's tense, it's rigid. It comes from fear of not doing enough, of not being enough. That kind of effort is loud, and it rarely lasts. But there's another way to move, a quieter way, one that begins not in muscle, but in center. In Shaolin training, we speak of movement from the dantian, the energy center just below the navel. It's where intention gathers before the body acts. When movement starts here, there's no waste, no resistance, just precision. The Yijin Jing teaches this through spiraling, coiled motions, fluid yet grounded, soft yet unbreakable. Strength does not come from trying harder. It comes from aligning thought, breath, and body until they act as one. The untrained body uses force to compensate for disconnection. But when mind and sinew are in union, strength becomes graceful. That's why a master can move slowly and still radiate more power than one who is frantic and fast. The same principle applies in daily life. You stop pushing through the day like it's something to conquer. You move with rhythm, with purpose, with just enough effort and no more. This doesn't mean you stop working hard. It means the struggle leaves your movement. The tension leaves your jaw. You speak when needed. You act without delay. But it all flows from center, not from pressure. This is how mastery feels. Not like domination, but like clarity in motion. You're not forcing the river forward. You're moving with it, and yet you're in command the entire time. Discipline begins where mood ends. There are mornings when the mind whispers, "Not today." When the body feels heavy, the air feels still, and nothing urgent calls your name. This is the moment that defines you. Not in grand gestures, in quiet repetition. The ego always looks for comfort. It prefers novelty, reward, ease. But the ancient path doesn't bend to what feels good. It returns to what is true. Again and again. In the Shaolin tradition, daily routine is sacred, not because the movement is impressive, but because the consistency builds something deeper than strength. It builds presence. When you train, even when no one watches. When you sit in silence, even when the thoughts fight back. When you walk the same path, knowing it leads inward, not outward. That is discipline, and it is not punishment. It is not rigid, it is not self-denial, it is calm commitment. A quiet honoring of the path you've chosen, regardless of the weather inside your head. People often mistake discipline for harshness, but true discipline is gentle. It doesn't scream, it doesn't shame, it simply reminds you this is the way. Over time, this commitment becomes part of you. You no longer debate whether to show up, you just do, and each repetition becomes a thread in the tapestry of your character. The ego wants escape, the soul wants consistency. Discipline isn't about control. It's about devotion, a soft but unshakable agreement between you and your highest self. And once that agreement is honored long enough, it begins to carry you through resistance, through doubt, into something quieter and far more powerful than motivation. Peace. There was a time when silence felt empty, uncomfortable, as if something was missing. Many people fill that space with noise, talking, scrolling, rushing, believing silence is a void to be escaped. But silence, when met with awareness, is not emptiness, it's revelation. In the ancient practice of Yijin Jing, movement is slow and intentional, but it always begins from stillness, not just of the body, but of the mind. That stillness is not absence, it's readiness, like a lake undisturbed, capable of reflecting the moon without distortion. The quiet mind doesn't mean there are no thoughts, it means you're no longer tangled in them. They rise, they pass, and the deeper awareness beneath them remains unchanged. At first, sitting in silence can feel like standing in a storm. Every unprocessed emotion, every unfinished thought suddenly loud. But if you stay, if you breathe, something begins to shift. You stop reacting to the noise, and you start witnessing it. Silence becomes a companion, not one that demands, but one that reveals. You begin to hear your intuition more clearly. You notice the subtleties, the way your breath shifts when stress creeps in, the way your muscles tighten with a passing fear. In silence, those signals are no longer drowned out. In Shaolin wisdom, silence is not passive. It's active observation. It is where insight begins. And over time, the need for constant stimulation fades. You stop fearing the pause. You stop rushing to fill the gaps. You find that the most honest part of you speaks not through words, but through the space between them. Stillness is not an escape, it's a return. And when the mind becomes still, it stops distorting life and starts reflecting it with perfect clarity. There's a certain way of moving that doesn't waste anything. No extra tension, no scattered attention. Every step, every breath begins deep in the body and flows outward like ripples from a single drop. In the Shaolin tradition, movement is not just physical, it is energetic. It begins in the core, not just the muscles, but the dantian, the well of qi at the center of the body. From there, everything extends. Arms, legs, breath, thought. Nothing is random, nothing is rushed. Even the simplest task becomes a reflection of your inner state. You walk not to arrive faster but to feel each part of the step. You sweep the ground not to finish quickly but to stay in rhythm. You train not just to improve technique but to understand the spaces between movement. This is what it means to embody presence, not to perform but to inhabit. Over time, the separation between practice and life dissolves. What was once mundane becomes sacred. Pouring water, cutting vegetables, tending to a garden, all of it becomes aligned. Because your awareness is not reserved for the special moments, it lives in everything. There's a fullness that enters the body when energy flows freely. You are no longer fighting gravity, resisting life. You are working with it, aligned, grounded, fluid. The body becomes an instrument of attention. The mind no longer darts ahead or lingers behind. It follows the breath, it follows the hand, and in that quiet cooperation, even the smallest task becomes a form of meditation. This is not about slowing down, it's about arriving fully in what you are doing. And when chi moves like this, smooth, steady, centered, life stops feeling like effort. It becomes practice, continuous, alive, whole. There's a part of you you've been taught to hide. The envy, the rage, the insecurity, the hunger for control. These pieces get pushed down early, too loud, too wild, too unworthy, so you bury them. You pretend they're not there. But what's buried does not disappear. It waits. It shapes your decisions in silence. It speaks through your tone, your tension, your habits. It acts through you the moment you stop watching. Real transformation doesn't happen by rejecting the shadow. It begins when you turn toward it with honesty, not judgment. You look at the anger and say, I see you. You notice the jealousy and whisper, I know where you come from. You feel the fear rise, and you stay with it, not to feed it, but to understand it. In the old traditions, the shadow wasn't seen as evil. It was seen as raw energy, misdirected, misunderstood, untrained. Like an untamed horse, it can either throw you into chaos or carry you toward mastery. The difference is how you relate to it. To integrate the shadow is to make peace with your own fire. You stop being afraid of your edges. You stop needing to be perfect, and you begin to reclaim the strength hidden in what you once denied. It takes discipline to face what's uncomfortable. It takes courage to admit what still moves you in the dark. But once you do, the inner split begins to heal. You are no longer battling yourself. You are leading yourself. And in that inner reunion, a deeper power wakes up. Not loud or dramatic, but steady, clear, whole. It starts early. The reaching. You want something, so you chase it. You get it. And for a moment you feel full. Then the mind moves again. What's next? What's more? And just like that, the cycle continues. Wanting, achieving, wanting again. This loop wears many masks: ambition, productivity, self-improvement. But underneath it all is restlessness. A quiet belief that something out there will finally complete you. But what if that search is the very thing keeping you from peace? In the Shaolin tradition, the lesson is clear. It is not the pursuit, but the presence that reveals mastery. The monk doesn't train for applause. He trains because the practice is the point. The breath is not a tool to reach somewhere else. It is the place to return. Each movement is not a means to an end. It is the end. There's a discipline in choosing presence. It means letting go of the itch to measure, compare, race ahead. It means asking, what is here right now, and actually listening. When you stop chasing, you begin to notice the strength already in your body, the clarity already in your mind, the quiet already inside you. This doesn't mean you stop growing. It means you stop growing from lack. You stop trying to fix what was never broken. The greatest masters don't have more. They need less. They've stopped looking for the next thing to satisfy them. Instead, they return to what is constant: the breath, the body, the ground beneath their feet. And in that stillness, they find the thing the world keeps running toward. Enough. There comes a moment when roles no longer satisfy you. The titles, the praise, the masks you've worn for approval, they feel heavy, like clothing that no longer fits. You begin to sense something deeper, a compass beneath identity, a way of moving that doesn't ask, how do I look, but instead asks, is this aligned? In the Shaolin path, that compass is wood virtue in action, not in theory, in daily choice. Honesty, even when it costs you. Clarity, even when others misunderstand. Humility, even when your skill is undeniable. These qualities aren't decorative. They're foundational. They don't make you impressive, they make you real. The ego thrives on image. It wants to be admired, followed, praised. But Wu Da doesn't seek attention, it seeks alignment. It whispers, let your life be your answer. To live this way requires discipline. It's easier to perform than to be. It's easier to seek validation than to serve from the heart. But when you act from virtue, your energy shifts. You stop leaking power trying to be someone. You simply are present, rooted, steady. You don't need to announce your worth. It's felt in your presence. You don't chase being respected. You respect yourself through your choices. You don't try to be seen. You make yourself useful and life sees you. True mastery isn't loud. It's precise, it's aligned, and it moves through virtue, not performance. In this way, the inner path becomes simple, not easy, but clear. You serve what is sacred, not what is trending, and that choice, repeated over time, builds a strength that no status can touch. There are moments when the body wants to run, when the chest tightens, the breath shortens, and fear begins to speak louder than reason. Life has a way of pressing on your weak points, not to punish you, but to reveal them. But if you've trained, truly trained, not just the body, not just the mind, but both, something else happens. You feel the fear, but you stay. You feel the pain, but you breathe. You feel the pressure, but you don't collapse. Instead, there's a quiet smile inside, not because you enjoy the struggle, but because you recognize it. You've met it before, in silence, in sweat, in discipline. At the Shaolin Temple Europe, training is not about strength for its own sake. It's about integration. Every posture, every breath, every repetition is designed to bring the body and mind into one rhythm. So when challenge arrives, you're not split, you're whole. You learn how to suffer without panic, how to endure without resentment, how to stay conscious even in discomfort. This is where real power lives, not in the absence of hardship, but in your ability to remain calm inside it. The untrained mind reacts. The untrained body flinches, but the one who has practiced, they pause, they soften, and then they move. That smile isn't bravado, it's recognition. It says, I've been here before, and I know how to return to center. It's not the absence of fear. It's the mastery of how to carry it, quietly, lightly, without letting it close your heart. When the shadow no longer runs your energy, life begins to feel less like a fight and more like a flow. You don't shut down, you don't spin out. You stay steady, soft but grounded, strong but calm. This is the internal alignment we train for, not to impress the world, but to walk through it with clarity. Through the principles of Yijin Jing, we learn to move slowly, to extend fully, to pause with purpose, to remain flexible in form, yet firm in spirit. Apply this to your life, in your breath, in your work, in your relationships. Let presence replace reaction. Let awareness guide effort, and let stillness become your strength. This is not a final state, it's a daily return. Thank you for walking this path with us. If this teaching spoke to you, like this video and subscribe to Shaolin Soulfire. Until next time, move with peace and lead from within.